awarded by some of the best forums in the industries for our customer experience and solutions, innovative solutions which we have delivered. And we are basically partnered with Yellow.ai, so who is our basically presentation partner today. And we have Varun from Yellow.ai who will be talking about the conversational AI use cases and how banks are basically leveraging that. So I would also like to introduce Vineet. Vineet Chetty. Vineet is Vice President Business Development uh, with Megasoft Information Systems, our group system concern, and we are pioneers in the banking industry. So Vineet will be also covering about the banking, you can say, capabilities as well as our perfect. So I would like to hand over it to Vineet. Vineet, you would like to take it forward? We will be also
Sure.
having Prasanna over. He's the Chief Innovation Officer from DCB Bank. He will joining us shortly. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Manav. I appreciate that introduction. That is a good introduction about DigiTL and our sister concern as well as Megasoft. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for the panelists to be joining this session on conversational AI in the BFSI industry. I think we'll have Mr. Prasanna Lohar also joining this session in some time before, and I also have my esteemed panelist Varun also part of from the Yellow AI team joining as a panelist for the session. Before we go ahead, I would like to take some time to share a brief presentation on Megasoft and its on its capabilities, which I think Manav gave a brief understanding about on our deep expertise in the banking industry. Megasoft has been in the banking and BFSI industry for the past 25 years. You know, we have had extreme experience in implementing in the rural as well as district level space and in working on the projects for financial inclusion in the rural sectors. With 25 years of experience, we have been able to complete implementation of 100 plus financial institutions. We've seen the evolution of the banking industry per se, from the desktop applications to web-based applications and so on. Right now, we are trending on from a CapEx-based model to an OpEx-based solution implementation across multiple banks. We have implemented core banking solution in 2,000 plus banks, which are currently live on our Megasoft CDS solution, that is Easy Bank. And with this experience, we also got a chance on improving the financial inclusion by adding a solution that was pioneered by the Indian government for something called as micro ATMs, where we implemented 7,000 plus micro ATMs. And on top of that, we also have implemented more than 40 plus mobile ATMs across states in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and so on and so forth, because our core implementations have been in the rural sector. In addition to the financial inclusion plan in the banking sector, we have also implemented more than 1,200 plus CAS, that is, centralized accounting system solutions for primary agricultural cooperative societies, that is PACS, which are the rural sections of India. And post that, we also have in our core banking system, which include a strong mobility and reporting tool that is implemented with the solutions for Megasoft to the banking customers with Megasoft. Along with this, we also provide multiple other services that is into analytics and predictive analytics solutions to most of our customers, including the banking solutions. But at the same time, I would, that's a bit about Megasoft. The core aspect of the event today is talking about conversational AI in the banking industry and BFSI space. So I would like to actually, let me just check if Mr. Lohar is joining the call. Okay.
So Vineet, Varun will be taking next.
Yeah, I
Prasanna
guess
is
I can
very
actually. So,
yes.
so definitely, thanks a lot, Manav. What we'll do is before Mr. Lohar actually joins in for giving us an in-depth idea about conversational AI and its implementation possibilities in the BFSI sector, we can have Mr. Varun talk, start about the Yellow AI and its experience in the BFSI sector and how Yellow.AI's conversational tool is transforming the industry. Varun, over to you.
Hey, thanks so much, Vineet. Nice to meet you, everybody. And I would like to personally thank Manav and the digital team for putting across such a wonderful show in the last 10-15 days as planned, right? I would love to thank you guys for putting this across so early. Let me share my screen, and I would like to present to you guys what Yellow AI is all about and what we do for a living as an organization. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, Varun, you can start.
Fabulous. Thank you. Great. Awesome. Quick introduction. Yellow.ai is a conversational AI next-gen total experience platform. We are basically an Indian company, started in the year 2016, and in 2021, we have close to around 1,000 plus customers globally. We are a conversational AI platform across a voice bot or a chat bot, irrespective of all channels like an IVR, or maybe let's say a WhatsApp, Viber, WeChat, a website, mobile app. Across all these channels, we can service with our AI, ML, and NLP engine. We process close to around 4 billion conversations on a quarter, and we support 135 plus languages globally. Specifically in India, we support close to around 19 languages on text and close to around 7 languages on voice, with close to around 180 plus dialects across multiple regions such as South, North, East, West, Central, Northeast, you may call that. This is an analyst deck of ours. Yellow AI recently got rated as on the niche segment by Gartner in the conversational AI space. This is the first time ever Gartner released a Magic Quadrant for conversational AI, and we are proud to be featured there. And we are practically the only Indian company to be featured there today in that list in the niche segment for conversational AI. Apart from that, we have won the G2 awards for the G2 Crowd Awards for as a leader in the conversational AI, and other analyst recognitions, including IDC, Frost & Sullivan, Frost Forrester, etc., are available. Some more awards which we have got in the last 3-4 years, I would rather call it. We have been named as the fastest growing startup, top startups, Microsoft Excellence Award, CX Excellence Award, NASSCOM Emerging Startups, multiple accolades won. This is basically due to our machine learning, NLU and NLP technology, which we have. Some of our customers who use us, in the banking space, we have the likes of Tata Capital, Bajaj Finserv, Exide Life, Asian Development Bank, and more banking logos, which are currently in go live. You would find us soon going live with at least close to 3 to 4 banks in India in the conversational AI place across your IVR voice conversational voice bots, as well as text bots on WhatsApp, etc. The platform, the reason why you see such a various breadth and length of customers, the only reason is because the platform is agnostic to any vertical or horizontal. So within a vertical, we can target multiple horizontals, including HR automation, ITSM automation, employee automation, or customer experience automation, partner automation, etc. Now, coming to why this core reason of the webinar, conversational AI using voice for banking and financial institutions, right? Because I've always believed that banks have the maximum reason to use technology. The reason because customer experience and customer service is most important, because unlike 20 years before, with a very few banks in the country, today we have more than 45-50 banks in the country where customer is free to choose any bank they want. And the reason why they leave a bank and go to another bank is only because of the plain fact that the customer service has been poor. This slide gives you a quick visibility on what makes the customer unhappy. Basically, when you call the contact center number, the toll-free number, you have to wait for 10 minutes for getting basic information. And you get calls because customers are outbound calling for lead generation, which is not that happy, because I get a phone call without my name being addressed and they just cold call me, and customers are not happy because they use the bank's name or a BFSI's name to make a phone call. However, it's outsourced, right? How the real fact is that the end of the day, the enterprise's name is what is getting spoiled. What customers are looking for today is a very paradigm shift than what the trend we experienced like 15, 20 years before again, right? Customer wants quicker service with no wait time. I walk into a McDonald's or I walk into a Burger King. I walk in, I place the order, my food is ready in 6 minutes time. I call a Domino's pizza, the pizza gets delivered in 26 minutes time practically, right? In a similar way, what customers are expecting is I walk into a branch, or I would rather not walk into a branch at all. I would like to make the phone call and get my questions answered without waiting in the queue. That's more important. And that is what is going to transform the world today with the conversational IVR, which we have with most of our customers. Some of the key differentiators of Hello AI is customer self-service. The platform is completely self-service that any organization can build and develop their own voice bots. At any point of time, the NLP training is so robust that in case a new intent comes, you can get it trained within the next 5 seconds time for the next caller to be ready. It's completely personalized and it's hyper personalized, or rather call it, because we're doing deep integrations with core banking applications so that we know who you are and we know what you need. That's how personalized the system is. Quick overview of the platform, where there is a complete marketplace on the left hand side, which is built on pre-built integrations with the likes of Avaya, Cisco, Genesys, or any contact center solution. And we also have a native integration where we can hand off the call after the voice bot takes over into a live agent, into any of these desktop agents, including a Genesys or an Avaya, Cisco for that matter. It also comes with a very powerful analytics engine, a document cognition platform, which makes sure that every customer query is addressed, and the ones which are not addressed gets passed into a different bucket, so the organization can train it and make the customer experience better. So that's in a quick nutshell about the architecture of the platform. Why voice bots for BFSI companies, and what are the use cases that we can address, right? That is the most important question here. So in inbound, you have multiple use cases in a banking scenario like customer service, a transactional banking, lost card, blocking card. You want to book an appointment, or you want to check the status of your loan, etc. Right? All these use cases can be addressed by a conversational AI voice intelligent assistant. And outbound calls can also be done with use cases like booking confirmation, collections, welcome calling, reminders. Let's say I issue a credit card to you and you want to make sure that the experience has been good after I issue the credit card. You can use a voice bot to make the phone call, take inputs from the customer. When he speaks into the platform, when he speaks into the IVR, the system is able to understand, comprehend, relate to the person what he's telling, if the sentiment is negative or positive, and then revert back to the person by telling that, hey, I understand your concern and thank you so much. We will get back to you, or it can throw accolades if required. What are the areas of impact where we can do conversational AI on voice? Is sales, customer satisfaction, productivity for your contact center agents, bring in automation so that the bot can handle most of the queries and reduce the wait times for customers. That directly reduces the turnaround time for a customer. You have a lot of call center agents sitting where attrition is high, and you tend to lose a lot of time in training, right? So here the virtual IVR gets trained within a matter of 5 to 10 seconds, or maybe a day, so that you save a lot of time in training. And by implementing a conversational AI voice bot, you're able to reduce the number of hours spent on customer queries, reduce support cost, and so on and so forth. Some of the why Yellow AI is different in the market. We have an automation first strategy where we're able to serve up to 60% of customer service. And since we have the NLP engine closely integrated with the contact center systems, we are able to hand off the call into a live agent in case we detect the customer sentiment is negative. Banks are always focused on security, so we bring in the on-premise deployment, which is very, very mandatory for any bank today if they don't want data to go outside the premises. We have native connectivity with any of the speech services engines like a Microsoft or a Google, or any of the platforms available today in the market from an ASR TTS perspective. And it brings in with a complete, the human voice is the most practical thing here. So we have
I think, Varun, we lost your voice.
We'll just wait for a moment for Varun to join back.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I would like to welcome Prasanna Lohar, the Chief Innovation Officer of DCB Bank. Good evening, Prasanna, sir. It's wonderful to have you as one of the panelists.
Yeah, good evening, Mano, and very good evening, everybody out here. Great to be here. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to host you and listen from you in terms of the banking revolution, what is happening and the upcoming trends.
Yes.
Varun, you are back?
Yes, I'm back. I don't know where did I lose myself. Suddenly my Zoom kicked me out.
There is some issue today with Zoom. Prasanna sir was also facing some problem. Yeah.
I remember Prasanna joining and I said, welcome Prasanna. After that, I don't know what happened.
Yes, yes, yes.
Perfect. Please continue, Varun, and then we will have Prasanna sir once you finish. Yeah.
So I am done with the presentation and I was welcoming Prasanna. I'm not sure where did I exactly drop off in which slide. So I can start from there again if required.
Perfect.
Prasanna, over to you.
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah.
Sharing my deck, just a second. Here and wonderful. So here we go. I think next 10-12 minutes we'll talk about what's happening. I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much once again. Yeah, digital craft innovation and LOAI, Mano, and everybody out here for inviting me to talk about what's happening on this conversation space, right? It's been, I think, I have seen those days. I have been to visiting to the bank branch, right? And wait for my own turn, or whenever my father used to take me to the bank branch for doing some of those financial transactions. I think that was the era in 2000 or late 2000, and today what is that we see, right? Most of the interactions with the bank happens on a mobile phone or desktops or laptops, and hardly people are going to the bank branches also after a pandemic. I think over a period of the next 10-12 years, we'll always see that a movement always come, right? What we have seen in the 10 years before or today and after 10 years, it's going to change very drastically, and voice or conversation platforms will really help to create invisible interfaces, right? So earlier was the days, right? We used to go to the branches for a physical interface, then it is a digital interface, and I think voice comes, or conversational technologies or voice technologies are coming and saying that tomorrow is a future which will be in form of invisible interfaces. So I think that's all about me. I am Prasanna Lohar from a DCB bank. So I think in the next 10 years, rather than 8 years, humans will be interacting with the physical interfaces. I'm not sure, right? The way we have seen Web 2.0, which is all about web technologies, like where we have seen innovations like Facebooks and Google Pays these days, right? Humans interfaces will change drastically in the next 8-10 years. These days we are talking about augmented reality, virtual reality based use cases like metaverse or omniverse will create new form of the interface, right? So people will do the banking in the air or wherever they are, right? So that's the game all about, and it all happens why? Because every era, right? It's a different era we live. Today we are in era 4.0, wherein we have seen in the past mechanical era, where a lot of automobile mechanical innovations happened in the 18th century, followed by in 19th century around electrical or mass production. We have seen how internet has really changed our life today, the way we communicate, talk, do data transfer, do the communications, right, and do payment transactions. We can't live our life without internet. And on top of internet, we have seen every business model resides today in 2022. If we imagine, let's go away from the internet, I think it has become a commodity. Like we always see, right? We need a home, shelter, and water, something like that. We always need internet and relevant use cases on top of that, right? And if you see the adoption of various industries, and today we may be heavily utilizing mobile, right? Next year onwards, whenever the 5G becomes a reality, right? 5G becomes reality, that moment you will see a lot of adoption of IoT devices, wearables, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure like how future will be, right, but this is all about the practitioners, technology companies to come together and see how consumer is moving ahead. So this is the way consumer always moves, right? So this is the way consumer always moves. Say example, if you see these logos were the best logos in 90s and late 2000. Imagine, right? Nokia's was one of the best. 95% market share was with the Nokia, or Kodak cameras, or Yahoo messengers, or AOL messengers, or these mills or long queues ahead of cinema halls or share markets, STD, SDPC, who used to go there, right, and wait for our turn to do some of those calls to our relatives. I have seen those days sitting in a college waiting for my turn, that too after 7 o'clock or after 8:30. So that was the era, right? So these were the best logos that moment, but every business model around these logos has vanished. Why? Because these logos didn't hear what consumer is doing and how consumer is moving ahead with the new technologies, so-called smartphones or internet and so on and so forth. So today we might be having different types of consumers, right? And if you look at this latest millennial or Gen 20 type of consumers are changing the way we are living or the way we are operating. Right? And today every generation has its own need. Let's say example, traditionally next two level of these generations, millennials or Gen X or Gen 20, so they are going to change our next business model. Start imagining what all things gonna change in the next few years, right? Or you talk about the way we have adopted internet, right? So today it must be more than 60 to 70% of the people are on the internet in the world, and this number will increase. Which we are utilizing, right? It's a more than 5-6 billion smartphones we are utilizing out here. Now look at type of devices we have used in the past. In a late 2000, I have used some of those PCs with a 486DS, and today we see 7th generation processors, or you can't imagine even life without mobile phones. So today we are in this era, but tomorrow we will enter in this connected platforms or connected era. Certainly our demand will increase, rather it will change the way we will interact or do the transactions. And what is the bottom line? What we have seen in the last 20-25 years, while we are in industry 4.0 with internet, communication plays major role. While we have used keyboards and a mouse in the past, today touch and the swipe and talk are those mechanisms most of the consumers interact. I think new generation customers have never seen keyboards, right? Now, while we are in this era, this voice technology is a prominent technology, which really always help to interact with your devices, interact with your cars, interact with your every gadget all around you. Although there are a lot of technological innovations are happening, right? So it will go on further more, maybe brain-to-brain interface or a gesture or mood. But today it's an era of a talk or a voice, while touch and the swipe has already been matured ecosystem, right? Why we are doing all of these things? Because every organization, every business model look at what is their next level. Maybe my earlier level was something like a paper-based, right? Account opening paper-based, and for every transaction, I want to know my balance. I want to know my statement. For everything, I used to go to the branch and do some kind of a paperwork. Today, voice is bringing that extreme digital kind of experience and typically it has come from other industries, so-called gaming and retail and the industry which are most innovative. Today, I think some of the banks in India are also looking at how voice can become another channel. The way we have internet, mobile, how voice can become another channel. I will not be surprised. Every home will have some kind of Alexa or a Siri, which will take all the transaction request and will perform the way consumer wants, right? So that is all about extreme digital, the way we have seen not digital to the extreme digital. That's the journey which we see. And while doing this, as I said earlier, communication plays major role, like what we have seen, keyboards and or touch screens. Voice is going to become more and more prominent in a AI enabled ecosystem. So this was the past, right? I spoke about those branch banking examples. This was the past. This is the today. Today, my customer client talks to the internet banking or mobile banking or some of those open bank kind of initiatives with a lot of fintechs, branch banking or a contact center. Every business model out here is adding one more layer called as a voice layer. Talk about text-based chatbots are slowly getting converted into voice. Today, it could be a technological challenge with the internet, but tomorrow with the 5G, it's gonna be 100% a voice-enabled interface for every of the channel. That is how I think we'll see more and more adoption of a bidirectional or AI-enabled banking. That's how I look at the futuristic banking altogether. Now, if you look at some of those statistics, right, 50% of consumers use voice search to find information about global or local businesses, right? So these are some of those statistics. 27% of online Google population is using voice search on mobile, and this number will increase further more and more. 60% of people claim that a smart devices are essential for their lives, and whenever they use smart devices, obviously voice becomes another prominent interface to interact with those devices. 56% of voice searches were performed to look for something up on the internet. So that is the consumer behavior is being changing, right? Consumer is becoming more agile, more demand centric. So, and voice becomes a immediate interface for any of their interfaces. While I am driving my car, tomorrow those smart cars will take a voice commands, right? Tomorrow sitting in a house, my electric gadgets and everything will pay out my bills the way I will give some instruction through voice. So it's a big thing, right? So the way I have showed some of those logos like Kodak's, Nokia's, this has vanished. Now look at these logos. Ola, Netflix, Amazon, these are high-end new age logos. And if you ask all of these logos, every logo is doing research around voice to bring us some kind of a talk about a Siri or Google, right? So everybody has given huge research on voice, and they are bringing a lot of on same thing. And if you talk about how typically it works, I think we are here with the LOAI, right? So they can always explain you all how a typical architecture for a voice coming in, how this voice is getting converted to literals, and what all those AI platforms really make you understand exact command in the backend. You talk to those APIs, will talk to a core banking system and serve everything for you just like that. And technology, if you ask me 3 to 4 years before, I was not being so confident about, but today the way we see there are quite a lot of platforms available, LOAI, and there are further more, which will really make that voice journey much more better out here. So typically, if you see some of those benefits for customers, it is available 24/7. It is not like that I have to open my laptop, do the password and login password, and they do the transaction. Your voice can become your authorizing power, right? Your identity, unique, right? Some of the banks has already implemented in a contact center, voice acts as a password. It's a high quality service, and proactive engagement can be done for our customers. For a bank, it's a cost reduction. Certainly, it's a huge cost reduction for deployment of a chatbot, reduction of errors. So much of error while having a contact center person in between. You can have a voice bot which will serve some of the right, and easily scalable. There are a lot of benefits, and these benefit lists go furthermore. Use cases could be like automated customer support. Say example, some of the banks are utilizing for some of those repetitive queries. This voice can be really a helpful interface for them. Voice bot, they serve on behalf of a human contact center agent. Some of the calls can be really taken care with the help of a voice bots. We are utilizing some of the voice-based calls, right? So which are interactive calls for a collection of your loan amount and so on and so forth. Real-time customer assistance, video-based client onboarding can be. See, these are all Web 2.0 use cases. While we enter into Web 3.0, voice will become prominent interface, and there we'll have to do many more things. So best thing to evaluate any of those voice-based platforms, right? Map your customer journey. Where is your customer? how will we reach out to the voice? Say example, can we introduce some of the voice into internet banking or mobile banking and so on and so forth? Identify the common queries asked by the customers, and see whether, how many percent of those queries can be automated with the help of a voice or similar kind of a chatbots, either through contact center or your website and so on and so forth. Outline areas of human assistance wherever the human assistance is required. For example, branch or contact center I was talking about, right? And at all, what all channels you can have that customer journey. Which conversational platform you should go ahead with. I think from last 5-6 years we have seen a lot of maturity in Amazon or Google or Apple or Microsoft kind of platforms. Many other Indian entities I can name, they have built their own voice platforms, right? I think last but not the least, safeguard your customers their data while you are selecting any of these platforms. So friends, we have seen in the past Internet 1.0, right, which is a static websites, communication on emails, and what we are living today is speed of social media, mobility, cloud computing. Tomorrow, rather today world, maybe, but what is slowly entering into Internet of Things. So while we will enter in the Internet of Things world with the 5G, people will become more agile. They will demand whenever they are sitting. By just sitting here, they will order their mobile phones, their desktop, their cars, instruments, all their IoT devices to perform the transactions. So that is why it's very, very important to see how quality voice products or voice-based platforms are coming in. So other technology, like it's not only voice is just one of the part, right? So, but how voice will interact with entities like blockchains or AI will create a different level of platforms altogether, right? So I think it's a high time for every organization to really practice it up these things. If they are not doing today, I think they are missing out of those customers who are looking at a voice as being one of those interface, right? So there are some remarks from my side furthermore before our discussion. So thank you so much, team LOAI. I am sure you are doing actually good work, and thank you so much, Digital, for bringing this conversation for all of our viewers. Looking forward how tomorrow's interfaces will have a more and more voice-centric innovation. So thank you so much once again. Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna, sir. That's a very passionate point of view from the technology perspective. I also understand your points on, what's been the tech transformation based on your excerpts and history as well as the consumer transformation and how there has been a massive transformation in the banking technology trends. So, also I would also like to thank Varun, who's been part of this as a part of the panelists, to give deep insights about Yellow.ai and the power of the entire platform. There were a few questions or trending topics that I was thinking of actually asking. I jotted down based on when I started the presentation and discussion sessions. However, I feel that Prasanna sir has already answered that question in deep details on how we are going to tackle the future technology trends and how conversational AI basically has a power to transform the financial industry. So if you have anything additional to add on top of that, Prasanna sir, we will be delighted to hear your voice, your words.
Prasanna, I have a question for you.
Yes, yeah. Who is there? Yeah.
This is Varun.
Varun.
Yeah, Mr. Varun.
So Prasanna, the question which you asked was, which you mentioned was, right, protect your data of your customers when you select a vendor, right? I would like to dwell more upon it. It's a very interesting key point which you mentioned, right? I mean, are banks open to cloud? Yes or no is the question for you now.
Yeah, certainly we are open for a cloud because that's how the consumer is going. You see one of my slides, those old logos. We don't want to become those old logos. We want to see where consumer is moving and how other parallel industries, so-called e-commerce industry or fintech industry, adopting cloud. Say example, whenever we adopt any of the fintechs are already on the cloud first journey. So in a nutshell, in inheritance, that whole network bank which are residing on today's managed data centers, and fintech is become a cloud adoption inherently. As a DC bank, we already adopted cloud on a video KYC, some of those financial applications. What happens, right? So it's an evolution journey, right? So how do we really adopt cloud? Although there are some guidelines by RBI, considering around data localization and many more. And we have seen some of those experiences with some of those entities being asked, the data has to be there in India. There are some data protection laws looking at how it should be, and banks are learning. Banks are creating their own cloud adoption strategy. Now, while banks are adopting cloud, for what application I should adopt the cloud? There are some applications which are on the cloud wherever we are going ahead with that. Some of the banks in India are already having their data journey like big data, or pushing some of the workloads at the end of the day for having those to take incentivization from the cloud elongability, right? As well as some companies or some banks are already utilizing voice or Alexa kind of ecosystems on which is already cloud. Some of the innovations which we are doing, it's not a cloud, but that is onto the level, called as a company, right? So which we are doing at the branches. So it depends upon it, and need is there. And at the same time, we have to see experimentally how our application providers, right, core application provider, for example, Finacle, or you talk about trade finance systems or lending systems, how they are cloud centric and how they are cloud ready. If you talk about them, they are ready, but their ecosystem yet to be matured. Another area is like if something goes wrong, right, or if there are issues. So apart from technology, there are some things to be sorted out as a tax resolution, right? So today, cloud service has to come and say that I will take care of your application as well as other things, so-called databases or some of those app servers, so-called web spheres and so on. Today, I am sure that if something goes wrong in my managed data center, I have to work closely with the database service provider or app service provider. That clarity will come slowly while we'll adopt the actual things. But for sure, every bank is really looking at how cloud should be adopted sooner or later. ROI calculation, sometimes it becomes very difficult or a catchy situation for, sometimes it becomes more costly, right? Cloud becomes more costly. So best part or best journey for every bank is to start with creating an internal COE, internal skill set, right? Who understand cloud or how to move your application cloud. Or while I am creating my applications, I need to create those cloud ready applications, developing in containers or Kubernetes and so on, so that migration journey becomes easy. Or another area is to create those checklists. While some of the banks are now pushing to RBI also, please allow us to go on a cloud, right? I think it's a journey and it is evolving with a very good pace, right? Tomorrow, I'll tell you, Vineet, use cases which I was speaking about, Web 3.0, all use cases gonna be on cloud, because cloud will be the bottom line for installations out there, right? There are a lot of platforms are coming in on top of hyperscalers. They are saying this is something environment only for banks, and that environment will be completely compliant with the RBI regulation or all those controls. It's an evolution, and people are making it ready. We will always see. Have you seen those days that we used to visit to the bank branches, right? And all of a sudden, PCs came into the bank branches. So it's evolution. Tomorrow's banking, I'm not sure we will go back to banking members. So it's all about adoption, how much maturity into that technology. Cloud is far matured now. It's a mindset change. We need to come together and really resolve, right? So I think regulatory is blessed with a lot of intelligence. They will come up with some guidelines. IDRBT, which is the institution of RBI, they have already come up with a cloud adoption guideline. There are cooperative banks like they have already adopted cloud. So it's a matter of how will you incentivize currently done, and how will migrate slowly or with strategically onto the cloud. It's only strategy every bank needs to look at it. Yeah.
Got it, Prasanna. Thank you so much. A lot of information.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Prasanna sir. I think we got a good banker's perspective on the new technology trends as well. Just to get a little bit of the ball rolling from the yellow AI perspective, Varun, I would like to understand the role of conversational AI in the banking and financial industry from your perspective. What transformations can actually come in the banking industry with the voice transformation from a vendor perspective, and the challenges that you might actually face?
When was the last time you worked with?
Is this for me?
Yeah,
it's for
please
Varun.
go ahead.
But you can also add your points as well, Prasanna.
Yeah, Prasanna's points is always welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, banker's perspective is always ready.
Yeah. And आप बताइए, you are more, you know more than me in this space. You're core banker, you are.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good question, right? And one of the slide I showcased how do you have those customer journeys? Look at from where your voice is coming or voice of customer is coming, right? Typically contact centers where people talk, or these days we are enabling those mobile banking or internet banking on voice. And tomorrow's IoT devices will be another set of channels. While we are today on contact center is one of the best use case to begin with, right? Or some of the chatbots which are coming on websites or on mobile banking app, which I think those could be the ways to really understand the voice of customers. I think one of those use cases I spoke, a voice can become an identity, right? So which is a unique, or voice plus something else could be second factor authentication also. That is how we should look at it. It's technology is maturing. Other platforms which are providing multi-factor authentication should consider voice biometrics also one of the authentication mechanism, right? So yeah, Varun, go ahead.
So adding to the point what Prasanna said, right? We are already experimenting with voice biometrics. We are calling it my voice is my passport, right? So what we do is we have Vineet or Prasanna record his voice for 3 different sentences in 3 different ways, and we build the algorithm in the backend. Once we do that, the next time you call, you are supposed to speak out the same sentence you spoke the last time. Since you have captured it in 3 different variants, speed formats, accents, etc., right? And this is not done in the same time. You do the first thing in the morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock when you wake up, that's one voice. Second is in the afternoon, where you're half tired from work, and the evening, when you're really tired from work, then you again speak the same sentence, right? So you can't, a mimicry artist cannot crack the system. That's the idea behind this. And we're already working towards it. I think, Prasanna, we should experiment that sometime. The voice is my passport.
Yes.
That's a very good, interesting stuff.
You know, that's actually it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Please go ahead. You did say something.
Yeah, so actually that's a true fact, considering the diversity that we have in India. Every 100 kilometers it's actually said that the accent transforms are minor. So I think that's a very interesting point that you've actually laid down in the power of the tool that you have.
For example, if I go to Singapore and come back after a month's time, my accent will change practically, right? Because I'm used to their accent, right? And if I come and say my voice is my passport in my South Indian accent, it'll never pick up practically.
True.
That's why we do this 3 to 5 different variants, so that it picks up all the mix and matches, and it brings out an algorithm with the 98%, 99% plus accuracy for it to unlock your bank account, etc., or whatever transactions you want to do over the phone, right? That's one part. Now, when you're coming to your point of from a LOAI perspective, well, we practically service 76% of the BFSs in the country today. That's LOAI, right? So the amount of learning we have across voice bots and chat bots across multiple use cases such as sales, service, marketing, dealer, distributor, branch banking, you name it, right? We have verticalized templates from a BFSI standpoint. So what I personally, if you ask me, I've been in the conversational AI space. It's been 9.5 years now in the conversational AI space. When chatbots were just, people were just thinking about chatbots, I was practically selling and implementing chatbots back in those days. And I've gone through that hard way, and I've seen that a lot of things have changed. And the only thing which today is a major challenge is adoption post go live. I'm sure Prasanna can comment on that, right? Frequent change management happening in the organizations today, because we see that a lot of people going, leaving, right? So somebody's idea is implemented, it's running perfectly for 6 months, fine. Unfortunately, the person has to move out for various reasons. A new person comes, or the person gets promoted, somebody else comes. They have a different thought process, right? So the biggest challenge here is change management. How do you take care of change management and make sure that the customer experience is not affected? And that is what is, I would say, the latest challenge which we are encountering, and we definitely overcome it. That's how it is.
I think that was a point that Prasanna sir also highlighted, that creating a COE as well as certain experts within the team. I think that's very critical for any successful implementation, right, Prasanna sir? I think that validates the points as well.
Absolutely.
You know,
COE today is the key.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I said COE today is the key. Otherwise, it's very difficult to sustain consistency.
Correct.
So I think how COEs are helping adopting any new technology is like it creates a mindset for that organization. Yes, we are going ahead. Secondly, it helps to create a governance structure. Who is going to be the responsible for that technology, for example, voice, or contact center, right? So typically, who is going to be the responsible? How many people or what all skill set we have to require? Is it a in-house skill set or to hire somebody more? Like, I'm not sure it will be a chief voice officer in future, right? Who will take care of only interfaces on voice. Or third thing, how it helps to for that organization, how this technology get adopted with the existing infrastructure or existing channels what we have. That is adoption. It gives some kind of a experimentation opportunity with the startups or tech companies to begin with, and then it gives a matured outlook. What are typical use cases? So during CSC, we need to make sure that which are those use cases we're gonna work in future. Maybe you have 10 use cases, but to begin with, can we start only at a contact center, followed by chatbot, or followed by at a human resource level, or at all levels, right? Based upon these need, I think certainly we can really say that certainly go ahead with the bigger approach, right? And collaborate with the ecosystem, talk to other bankers, how they are also bringing on. So those incentives can also come to the during the COE approach. Yeah.
Agreed. I would just, before we go ahead with some questions on with the members, participants in the group, I would like to also ask Manav about a certain point on similar on conversational AI, on the revolutionary capabilities of this tool in for the banking and finance industry. So, how Manav, your inputs on the same?
Yeah, so I think pretty well you can say touch upon by Prasanna and Varun. I would just like to say, like, basically the global spend on the AI is forecast to double, which is growing more than 110 billion by 2024, with banking and retail predicted to spend the most money on the voice bots. So that was one of the Gartner's finding. And almost like 40% of 18 to 44-year-old consumers are ready to bank through social platforms and voice assistants, according to the EPAM 2020 banking report. So that's a revolutionary, you can say, the kind of a revolution which these niche technologies is bringing in and helping the banks in terms of the customer service, enhancing the customer experience. And I think 7.3 billion is the estimated operational cost savings by the Bfsi sector in the chatbots globally by 2023, and 8.4 billion voice assistant units are estimated to have been sold by 2024. So these are some of the starts of the findings which justify the investment in the conversational AI from the Bfsi perspective.
That's quite interesting, Manav. Thanks a lot, Manav, and all the other panelists for actually a good session and question answers. I would like to take up questions from the participant or anybody within the panel team has any questions to each other. We are very well ready to start with that. So, Manav, you have any questions?
I think we have some questions from the participants. I think there is a question.
Okay. So there's a first question here. How can by Unica, how can multilingual capabilities of Yellow AI's voice chatbot help overcome the digital divide and knowledge gap? I think that's targeted towards Varun, I guess. You can take that up.
I'm sorry, my line got a little bit choppy. What is the question?
Okay, so I'll repeat the question. Unica is asking this question: how can multilingual capabilities of Yellow AI's voice or chatbots help overcome the digital divide and knowledge gap?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Right now, multilingual. If you want to live in India, you need to know multiple languages, right?
True.
I'm from South and I speak Hindi, and I understand Marathi and I speak back in Marathi, and of course English is always there, right? But the moment I go to a west east or Kolkata or something, I practically never understood the language because it was very difficult to communicate, right? So that point of time, I used to use a Google Translate and understand and then I used to translate back. So that was very helpful. Now, that is when I have a smartphone. However, today, what we have seen as a trend is that people in tier 1 cities and tier 2 cities have the smartphone, etc. But tier 3 rural talukas, they do not have a smartphone. However, they have practically more money than what practically people who have in tier 1 have. They don't want to have a smartphone because they're used to the kind of lifestyle where they're happy, free, without the involvement of social media. However, they still want to do a bank process, etc. Right? They still call a contact center number. When they speak, you practically cannot have a 1,000-seater contact center with addressing multiple languages, multiple dialects in the country, right? No. For example, if somebody speaks a Bhojpuri or a Maithili, you cannot have a person in the contact center who understands Maithili, practically, right? It's impossible.
True.
Yeah, right. Or if you have Northeast, for example, right? The language is totally different. Every 10 kilometers you move in the Northeast when you go upper Shillong and down, right? Now, what LOAI's multilingual voice bot or a chatbot capability does is that we are able to understand Hindi, apart from the Hindi plus English, that's the common English is what we call it. And we're also able to understand the dialects of a person right from Vidarbha to a Dhule, or right from a Goa to, let's say, a Pune for that matter, right? Imagine this happening across India, where we're able to handle the length and breadth of the country in terms of dialects. That's the biggest differentiator where we bring in. If we do this, and since you're already doing it for a lot of organizations who are in the farming space, where a farmer today calls a voice bot and is registering a claim because his crop did not sow because he had floods in the region practically, right? He wants to claim insurance for that, right? This is very interesting. These kind of use cases, or for a person who is sitting in Nanded, for example, who had met with an accident, unfortunately, and he wants to do a motor claim. Since he does not have a bike because he's met with an accident, he has to walk all the way or take a bus like 25-30 kilometers to go to a general insurance service center and claim it. But today, no, it's not required.
Right.
Now, he makes a phone call today, speaks in Hindi or in Marathi or in English or whichever language, and is able to register a claim using a complete conversational AI. This is how we are able to empower organizations with the help of our multilingual capabilities across a voice bot or a chatbot.
Great. Thanks a lot, Varun. I that's very interesting response. That's really great, technology that Yellow AI is presenting with the challenges that we face across India, the multilingual challenge, you can say. We have another question by KS. How capable is the voice bot / chatbot to understand the instant, even if it is not articulated clearly?
That's where the machine learning and the NLU intelligence from our comes in, right? That's where the NLU comes into play. So you can speak fully, you can speak partially. We have a model called as a sentence encoder model in the machine learning algorithm, which basically means that you do not have to speak the full sentence. If you speak only partial of it, then the sentence encoder model comes up in the picture. And then in case the bot is really not able to or not understood what the customer is trying to say, then backed by the sentence encoder model, we also bring in a model called as did you mean function. So what it does is it will pick up the confidence score and understand what are the nearest scores which is pertaining to it, less than 85% or more than 85%, up to 92%. And it's going to ask the customer, hey, did you mean that? Do you want to buy an insurance policy or do you want to raise a claim, in case the question is not so completely clear, right? So with this kind of algorithms we have built, which is proprietary completely, we have been able to bridge the gap where you don't need to speak completely or chat type completely. The platform will still make sure that the intent is understood and it will be able to respond back to the customer.
Yeah, I think we are actually pushing towards consumers getting a little more lazier, in fact, compared to
Yeah.
So the next, sorry, Varun, go ahead.
Nothing. I was just telling how lazy people have become, and they speak like a few words. And in fact, I was talking to somebody there for a study, and he was telling, my son speaks to Alexa to order food from Swiggy. I was like, wow. And the kid is 5 years old.
I think there's a massive transformation, like how Prasanna sir was stating, the gradual evolution of the consumer from standing in queues to talking on the phone. I think that's what's happening right now. Okay, so we have another question. I think Prasanna sir, you would be able to answer this query. How is conversational AI being adopted in the banking industry? I know you've added certain points during your presentation and conversation as well. It would be great if you can answer this query as well. Is Prasanna sir there? Okay, so I think Prasanna sir is not there. So Varun, would you be able to take up the question?
I can take up the questions. You're not a problem at all.
Perfect. Yeah.
So how is a conversational AI being adopted by the banking industry, right? First step first, a lot of banks today are looking at reducing the contact center volumes. The reason, because the pandemic has taught people a huge lesson that What if your call center guy is not able to go to office to pick up the phone call, right? That's the most important thing, right? Now, when the pandemic kicked in, I still remember when I was in Singapore and I flew back on 23rd and I was like completely not able to go where, right? I had to go and draw cash because people were telling me ATM mein paisa nahi milega. Just go to the bank, run, right? Then I had to call the call center and ask, dude, can I come to the branch? Which is the nearest branch open? Because near me all the branches were closed where I live. Now the contact center, contact center, I wouldn't name the bank. The contact center's reply was, we are not operational due to this season, due to this COVID reasons. Please email us, right? Because email is still, people get the email. Now, by the time I email, somebody checks it and then somebody responds it, somebody would have taken all the money from the bank and gone away. I would practically would be sitting on some Dutch. Right? That's a classic example.
Correct.
Now, that is when a couple of banks, or I would rather say one of our own customers, Bajaj Finserv, took it up, right? Now, for example, one of a large NBFC customer of ours, what they did was, we were in the UAT phase even before the pandemic, surprisingly, because they wanted to start the journey, not expecting a pandemic to hit and right. God forbid it came in. And we went live on April 2nd. And practically the first 1.5 months, the contact centers were running on LOA's voice bots.
Wow.
Only complex queries were getting deflected to a WhatsApp, etc., using LOA's chatbot. Second was another large FMCG provider where you can order food, etc. They took away the contact centers completely. For 8 months' time, they're running on voice AI with LO. That's the kind of level of transformation we have. Coming to a banking, banks are adopting to AI, conversational AI, slowly and very carefully, because as Prasanna mentioned before, right, RBI guidelines are very, very stringent in the country because of data security. Second is what Prasanna mentioned. If you really want to do transformation, you need to touch the heart, which is the core banking system. It can be a Finacle or a TCS banks or whatever that is, right? If I don't touch your heart, I will never be able to make you smile. That's what I personally believe. Right? You can touch the mind, it goes away, but if I touch your heart, you're able to smile, right? So if you want the customer to smile and give him, and the organization gives him a good customer experience, you need to touch the core banking systems. Otherwise, you can't do much transformation. FAQs and all, it's very normal. You can just Google and ask FAQs, you still get it, right? However, most of the call volumes comes because of core banking questions, checkbook ordering, etc. Where I have to touch the core banking system to do a process, right? RPA is there in the back end in place, but however, to instruct the RPA, you still need a human being. Now here the voice bot takes over. It is slow, it's gradual, but I'm sure that end of 2024, 25, I'm looking at least 60% of the banks in the country will be having voice bots complete. That's what I see as a trend.
That's a pretty interesting number, in fact. Okay, thanks a lot, Varun. That was quite a detailed answer. Do we have any other questions from the participants? Mr. Lower, hi. Prasanna sir, there was a question that we had asked Varun as well. How is conversational AI being adopted by the banking industry? So if you have your inputs on the same, it's quite welcome. In fact, we can listen to your points as well.
Yeah, I think the same thing, right? We need to see where all those channels, right, where we will receive the voice of our customers. Typically, we start with the voice of a customer at the contact center, as well as some of the channels where we are adding those chatbots or those voice bot relevant features. I think some of the banks in India, we have seen done some Alexa kind of innovations. Some of the banks in abroad use voice as an identity. In India, also one of the bank guys use at a contact center, they don't ask extra additional question, what is your name or mother's name? They just identify, and on their dashboard, they will sense that this customer is a green or red based upon their voice. I think moreover, intentionally, voice will tell you how the prominent is a customer, their behavioral patterns also. Apart from facial, voice can also become one way to understand customers' sentiments. Technology needs to be evolved. Technology is evolving. As a DCB bank, we are also looking at how we can use voice or text-based chatbots for some of those, to begin with some of those non-banking services. Maybe tomorrow your devices, your cars will ask, or rather than you will instruct, please let's go to the McDonald's and come back with a burger, pizza, or ask your smart cars to go and fuel the petrol at a petrol pump. So it's a autonomous era is gonna come, but I think voice will become because what we have seen yesterday, this is what I was talking about. Yesterday, people used to travel down to the branches. Now your branch is in your pocket.
Right.
Wherever I go, I should have. And your interfaces are becoming more and more invisible. So biometric plays major role to create invisible interfaces. So could be facial biometrics or voice or your fingerprints. So that's it, which creates a digital identity of that customer or additional identity of that customer apart from your static or some of those data which generate from our date of birth and so on and so forth. So it's I think these kind of use cases typically banks needs to adopt heavily. Some of the things which banks are looking at based upon what data they have had at a contact center, they do lot of analytics. See how many people are talking in English or Hindi and so on and so forth. How much duration they talk? What is their sentiment while they are talking? Are they happy or unhappy? And this kind of a voice plus video analytics could be really helpful for bank to understand what is the happiness index of the customers. So apart from voice, their AI also comes into the picture and understand. I think I will not be surprised tomorrow voice can become another additional factor of KYC. So let's look at how it happened today. We are doing video KYC, which has a video plus other artifacts like your documents. But I think how customer is talking, but technology has to be evolved in the future. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Prasanna sir. That's a pretty interesting point of view as well. I think there are some more questions as it were flooded when you started your response. I'll start with the latest one. Tell us some of the more steady use cases for banking where voice automation is doing the most value add. I think Varun, you'll be able to take that up.
Sure, I will, of course. So from a use cases from a automation can be done, right? So I will have to go back and present the deck. I think presenting the deck will add more value here since it's getting recorded instead of talking, because people will be able to actually see the use cases which can be done from a Bfsi perspective standpoint, right? So just give me a minute, guys. I'll have to pull up the slide for you guys and do a slideshow. Hang on. That creates more, seeing is believing for people, and it comes in the memory in a much better way.
True.
Yeah. These are some of the use cases which we can do on a conversational AI bot, irrespective of voice or chat, right? Irrespective of channel, a WhatsApp, a Telegram, a mobile app, a website, or an IVR on top of an Avaya, Cisco, Genesis, etc. So it's a lead generation, completely outbound, customer engagement, welcome calling, credit card, welcome calling, insurance, welcome calling, you name it. And we are currently building a use case for Smart Advisor, wherein, in fact, it's in the mutual fund industry. The bot actually calls and tells you that what are the stocks which are doing better, and if you'd like to invest or not, and giving advice, right? It's called as mutual fund advisor. Then customer support, of course, is there inbound, right? So think, guys, the most important scenario here is, as I said before, if you don't touch the heart, the customer wouldn't smile. You can't do all use cases of a voice bot today because of dependency on core banking system, etc. So you should start small, take a baby steps with respect to customer complaints. So any call which has an AHT of less than 2.5 minutes from a banking scenario, you should start there and eventually progress and make it better. That's from a use perspective. And financial services, again, loans, deposits, transfers, credit card, debit card, financial advice, insurance, capital markets. I mean, so on and so forth. Multiple use cases are there.
Great. Okay, so that's an interesting response. It mirrors a point that you both were also talking about, is take small steps at a time for during the implementation, and that's what the response was as well. I think there is this one interesting question over here by Neha. Considering that trust, the question is, trust is a big issue when it comes to banking. Maybe that the consumer is scared with changing trends. Do you think this is challenging when we adapt new technology for the consumers, the adaptation trend for consumers, because it's all considering money, right? In the banking industry. So how do you ease the customer so that they actually trust the new solution as well? Varun, you'll be able to answer that. In fact, providing the
I would say
solution.
Prasanna should answer this. Our true banker should answer this question. I was waiting for it.
Prasanna, sir, your point of view?
Can you just repeat, because connection at my...
So the question basically is that, when it comes to banking, trust is the biggest issue, because, it actually, it's all about money for a consumer in the end. So when a bank adapts new technology, how easy is it for a consumer to start using that technology? And how do you push the confidence to the customer that, it's a safe technology to use?
Yeah, I think what is happening, customer is becoming more and more intelligent, and rather customer is pushing banks to innovate furthermore. That gives a lot of confidence for banks. Yeah, we have to provide these kind of new kind of innovations to the customer. Now let's take example of mobile banking, which was not there earlier, but mobile apps were already there for some of the non-banking applications, so-called games, right? So that's inherently becomes a trust, like it will work. And as we work, there are some kind of messages or some kind of SMSs always go from a bank's end. This is secure. This is how you should really operate. Don't use or don't share your passwords. And while they onboard onto mobile banking, there are a lot of assistance overs, right, which always help customer. How do we operate that? So it's a matter of a trust. And what is happening today, we don't have any of those manuals, right, for WhatsApp or any of those high-end applications people use it on Android and iOS. Similarly, we follow those user-centric UI/UX guidelines or a science behind that, and that inherently creating a trust factor for our customers. Yes, if I am clicking here, it's gonna work, right? If I am going to click somewhere, it will not work. So that kind of a UI/UX guidelines also banks are also following as a best practices while they push any of those new innovations to the customer. I think another aspect is like banks are governed by regulators, right? And regulator does provide a lot of guidelines. So, example, PCI DSS guideline, which is around the payment controls, or there are DPSC controls given last year by RBI, and it gets evolved, right? And these guidelines are making this whole ecosystem more better and more trustworthy. So, based upon type of a customer, whether it is a Gen X or a boomer or a traditional, their adoption towards any of those channels is pre-decided. For example, I'll be a traditionalist. I would certainly go to the branch for any of my traditional queries, right? But if I'm a tech savvy, automatically I'll go to the mobile banking or internet banking or tomorrow's any of those things. But in a nutshell, bank is responsible for every penny or every pie which is put into their banking accounts, right? And bank does follow all those regulatory guidelines which are governed by our regulator. As India, I think we are much more blessed with a very good regulator, Reserve Bank of India. And what we have seen in the last 4 to 5 years, they have come up with a lot of guidelines on security. Uses of RSA, which is adaptive authentication, implementation of a fraud risk management tool at every core banking or payment ecosystem, having those additional OTPs, right? India is one of those countries who has come up with a second factor authentication for your debit or credit cards. And moreover, there are additional things, right? How do we report frauds? It's an overall ecosystem is quite robust. I think over a period of time, customer also understood that anything comes from bank, it undergoes a additional cycle called as IT security evaluation or a security audit, right? I think that's how customer needs to really well versed with this kind of. There should not be any question also of a trust if they are utilizing any of the apps of our bank's app. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Those are valid points, Prasanna sir. I think thanks a lot for that response. I think we have one more question. I think post that we can wrap up. We've already passed our time for the webinar session. There's a question by Badrinath. With apps like Truecaller, does it affect customers accepting inbound calls for voice bots? If yes, what can banks do better to message customers for better engagement? Varun? Prasanna sir, will you be able to take that up? Is Varun on the call?
So I think Varun has got some connectivity issue.
Yeah, I think Varun got disconnected. So, okay. So what we'll do is definitely we'll take up all these queries. If possible, we'll share an email address where you can send across the query. So you already have the yellow.ai support query details, and you can definitely answer, or we can definitely answer all your questions. I think it's up for me for the question and answer sessions with the panelists. I think it's over to Manav to conclude this event and thank the panelists. Over to you, Manav.
Thanks, Vineet. I would like to thank all the eminent panelists for their valuable time joining us and helping us to educate in terms of the revolution technologies which are coming in the banking industries, and how basically banks can leverage conversational AI to enhance the customer experience and bring, you can say, better services for the customers, and as well as increase the engagement. So thank you, Prasanna sir. Thanks, Vineet. Thanks, Varun. So Prasanna sir, it's a pleasure to have you, and basically the insights you have given in terms of the BFSI industry. So that will be pretty helpful for us in terms of taking it forward.
Yeah, so thank you so much once again, organizers, Digital, LOAI, Mano. I think this is a need of a time to evaluate better tools. LOAI is doing a very good job in this space. Many banks are adopting. I will also recommend the way technology is being evolved, and the platform is getting evolved. Certainly, it's one of the best. Look forward how we can collaborate and make this whole engagement more prominent. So thank you so much once again for inviting me here for my views, right? Thank you.
Thank you for the appreciation and the recommendation. It's a pleasure to interact with you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.